Hey everyone, it's Miss Solomon here, and together we're going to spend some time with Ada Lamone's poem, Late Summer After a Panic Attack. I hope you won't mind my reading of the poem and a close analysis if you'd like to stick around. As you listen, I encourage you to focus on the speaker's relationship to her environment. There's a tension here between the chaos within and the stillness outside. First, the poem. Please make sure that you have it open in your browser as I read aloud so that you can follow along. Late summer after a panic attack. I can't undress from the pressure of leaves, the lobed edges leaning toward the window like an unwanted male gaze on the backside. They wish to bless and hush. What if I want to go devil instead? Bow down to the madness that makes me, drone of the neighbors mowing, a red mailbox flag erected, a dog bark from 3 houses over, and this is what a day is. Beetle on the wainscoting, dead branch breaking, but not breaking, stones from the sea next to stones from the river, unanswered messages like ghosts in the throat, a siren whining high toward town, repeating that the emergency is not here, repeating that this loud silence is only where you live. That timing is everything, and Ada Limon is a master of using end stops and punctuation and repetition to make us all slow down or speed up and recognize her desired timing of the poem. So the late summer suggests transition. Something is ending, maybe even decaying. And after a panic attack situates us as readers in the post crisis of what's happened to the speaker, but we're not in peace. We're in the emotional debris of this post crisis where hyper awareness and emotional residue still linger. And that is a beautiful place to spend time in a poem. So let's look at the title a little bit more. Late Summer After a Panic Attack is a bold hook for the entire poem. Like, I wanted to read that poem immediately because if any of you have experienced a panic attack, then you're like, oh, well, I'm probably going to relate to this. And if we've ever had a panic attack before, we may also be a little bit apprehensive to relive something so uncomfortable. But I find that even though anxious folks like me can be a little bit apprehensive, we are brave to re-experience because we hope to help others. The poem's confessional mode is raw and vulnerable. It's one single flowing sequence, punctuated by periods but never pausing to breathe with a line break or a stanza. I think the punctuation and structure of this entire poem is like this, the breathless quality of having a panic attack, or maybe even its aftermath, because you're trying to find your breath. You're trying to work through the mental inventory, the scattered recounting of what just happened. And to choose late summer's heat and the slow decay of the season. I don't know about you guys, but I can't keep anything watered outside. It's just all seems to be dying in the extreme heat. And to pair that with the aftermath of a deeply personal crisis, it all points to the after of the title, meaning survival. And when we think of the word survival, we're like, yes, triumph, we made it through, it feels good. But it tells us right away that the speaker is still here, obviously, speaking, feeling, working through it. But that alone carries weight because we're still living in that survival. Survival is the messy part, too. So let's remind ourselves of the first line. I can't undress from the pressure of leaves. So, what a strange and beautiful first line to start with. It sets the tone of psychological entrapment. The speaker cannot remove herself from something as natural and benign as leaves. It's like she's hyper focused on this thing. Because she's in sensory overload and perhaps even a kind of PTSD from the panic where everything now just kind of feels too close, too much. So let's look at another line. Like an unwanted male gaze on the backside. This simile is uncomfortable, which makes it powerful. It takes the natural world, those leaves at the window, and makes it feel intrusive, even predatory. The speaker feminizes herself here, or she aligns with the feminine experience of being watched or objectified, even by nature. And imagine how caging that feels. That a place like leaves where you're supposed to kind of feel free, natural, there's no escape even in those leaves. Now let's look at another line. In parentheses, they wished to bless and hush, which is a line that feels pretty sarcastic and even suspicious. The speaker doesn't trust the leaves and doesn't trust the leaves to bless and hush the way that nature is, I think, what we ideally hope that it would do, to make us feel at ease. Um, the speaker, it's as if there's any comfort to be found in this state of emotional post-crisis, it's patronizing or it's a lie, it's false. So that's even more kind of, caged in. And then we move to this next line where she's like, what if I want to go devil instead? That's the rebellion. So in the lines that work through, we get caged and caged and caged, and then she's like, boom, what if I want to go devil instead? It's a rebellion. Instead of seeking peace or grace, the speaker wonders about leaning into this madness and letting it define her. So going devil suggests owning what frightens others and claiming the chaos rather than being afraid of it, and that's pretty powerful. Now, in the middle of the poem, she's going to ground us in some of the suburban noise. If you look back at the poem, quote, drone of the neighbor's mowing, a red mailbox flag erected, a dog bark from 3 houses over. These are completely normal, less novel details, but in the aftermath of a panic attack, they take on an eerie significance. It's like the world has kept going, oblivious to the emotional collapse the speaker just experienced. She's watching life resume from the outside, but also if you're anybody watching this, you've had a panic attack before. What you hope to do is find something outside of yourself to get your mind out of itself. So if you can hear the drone of the mowing, if you can recognize the red mailbox, then you're slowly coming out of yourself in this post-crisis too. So there are a number of ways that you could read those suburban details in the middle of the poem. Then we move into the line, and this is what a day is. This line is crushing, because it maybe trivializes or minimizing what a day is. It's normal and less novel. It drones on. It's really not joyful, and even when she tries to find those details outside of herself, she's not relieved. It's just an observation. And this is what it means really to endure. This is a hard poem. We witness ordinary things and we try to stitch a life around them, and we're not really satisfied once we come out of this post-crisis of a panic attack to feel that there's something that we can latch onto, some comfort, relief, and it's not there in this. stage of the poem. Let's look at the set of lines later on here. We've got beetle on the wainscoting, dead branch breaking, but not breaking. Here, I believe Limon kind of offers us a couple of images of suspended motion. So the beetle is still, but still perhaps unsettling, because I don't know how you feel about bugs, but bugs can be unsettling. And the branch is on the verge of snapping, but hasn't yet. It's like it's just kind of hanging out there. This feels like a metaphor for the speaker herself, who is pushed to the edge, but still intact. Uncomfortably so, but still intact. Next, we've got, quote, stones from the sea next to stones from the river. This is a quieter symbolism. You've got two things that look alike, but have different origins and journeys. Perhaps it's a way to describe trauma itself. One person's panic looks like another person's calm. So one size is not going to fit all, even in our trauma and a panic attack. And your panic attack, my panic attack, looks so much different than a person that we love's panic attack. Or maybe it's just another attempt to name what feels out of place, her trying to reach for the outside world outside of her mind. But next we have one of my favorite lines. Quote, unanswered messages like ghosts in the throat. So haunting. The speaker here carries words unspoken. Because that's what we do. A panic attack is really once we've internalized all those words unspoken, texts unread or unreplied to, the things that we've left unsaid, they linger and we internalize those spirits in the body and they haunt us. Next, we have what I think in the poem is total devastation. Quote, a siren whining high toward town, repeating that the emergency is not here. So the siren is a literal sound, but emotionally it mocks the speaker. She's in her emergency, but the world says it's happening elsewhere. There's no ambulance coming for her in her emergency. And I think many of us feel that way sometimes about our own emergencies. We're like, well, we'll belittle the thing that we've gone through, which doesn't make us feel good, or there are people that around us that belittle what we go through. And then, mercy sakes, this speaker doesn't have somebody telling her, like a human being with a soul, that maybe their emergency isn't an emergency. She's got the mechanical surroundings of her and that siren and the noise telling her that her emergency is maybe not even an emergency, which doesn't make us feel good. And so once we get through that part of the poem, we move to the last line, couple of lines, repeating that this loud silence is only where you live. That final image is a liver punch to me. Loud silence captures the sensory paradox of anxiety. When everything is too quiet, but your brain is screaming. And the phrase only where you live reminds us that the pain is internalized. This is kind of even how the negative self-talk that accompanies anxiety, like this is how we talk to each other, to ourselves. This is our self-concept. And we feel isolated in that. We live in it and no one else may notice at all because there's just so much other stuff going on around that we'll kind of carry this thing. So I love Ada Limon's poetry, and she is among our great contemporary poets because she can take moments like this of interior struggle and thread them into a landscape full of sound and image. She's describing anxiety in a way that at least I recognize, and I think you all will too, but she's willing to inhabit it again in the composition of the poem. She lets us feel the disorientation, the isolation, but then also the gritty realism of living through panic in the world we live in today. Unfortunately, this poem doesn't offer us healing. It's not a pretty bow. We don't have resolution, but more of the gift here at the end of this poem is that she's given us truth. This is how it is. And it's like the poem says, I see you, in how survival just sucks. And sometimes, really, for us now, if poetry is going to have any sort of social utility in the 21st century like this, that's a powerful, beautiful gesture for a poem to make for us. And so I hope that you enjoyed this video to kind of break down one of the great poems on our reading list for this week. And I will talk to you soon. Holler if you need me. Bye.